Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Making a video about a WWE Network special that was honestly on months ago. I have fallen behind on reviewing specials from the WWE Network, but the WWE 24 on Seth Rollins, which I believe came out somewhere right around his debut, which was around Extreme. Well, it was in his debut, but his return from his injury that he suffered when he was wrestling Kane. I believe it was over in Germany. This thing was an A+. They knocked it out of the park. I think this was honestly one of the best WWE 24s. I always want to call them WWE 24/7. I like the fact that you get to see a lot of footage from behind the scenes during Seth Rollins and his sort of rehab coming back from injury. The thing starts off basically with him as his run as WWE champion. He basically is very cocky about himself, and he really does deserve it. I've honestly said a lot of times that when it comes to Seth Rollins, I believe that I wasn't his biggest fan when he was champion during his run. I took lots of shots of his championship reign, basically saying that he kept his title due to the fact of a lot of interference from J&J Security or Corporate Kane. It seemed like he never really won a one-on-one match, just sort of straight out. And then, he was gone due to injury, and during the time he was gone, I started to miss him more and more and more, to the point where I was like, damn, I wonder why I don't have a Seth Rollins shirt. I wonder why I didn't buy a ticket to meet Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 32 Access. Just one thing after another. I ended up meeting Randy Orton, but I never got a picture, but we'll talk more about that later. But it turns out that I am a really big Seth Rollins fan, and I didn't even really know it. We have an interference from Thang right here, who's a dog staying at the house right now. Not my dog. Thought about it, and then it just ran away from me when I opened up the door when I had to go get my phone out of the car, and now I'm thinking about not keeping this dog. But, the whole Seth Rollins special was really, really good. It picks up with him as WWE champion, and then you see him getting injured, and then from there, him going to actually get the surgery. I don't think he went and saw Dr. Andrews, which is like a really famous surgeon in Alabama, but I think he did go down to Alabama and just have another surgeon do the surgery for him, where they had to go in and fix all the ligaments and muscles and stuff that are in his knee. We're on YouTube right now, all right? Calm it down. And then from there, basically, it goes into a special that it would a lot be like, on a Seth Rollins. It would be a lot like a Seth Rollins DVD that would come out somewhere down the road. Where it basically talks about to his mom and his dad about, him growing up and being a part of a family, and him sort of not really being a lot like his brothers, to the point where he was very rambunctious. It was hard to get him to sit still for pictures. He was in love with wrestling and his wrestling buddies. It showed him actually having a wrestling match, dropping a leg drop and announcing the immortal Hulk Hogan as the victor of the match. He was a big fan of the Ultimate Warrior. He was a big fan of Hulk Hogan, a lot like a lot of wrestling fans that were his age that are now growing up and becoming professional wrestlers. It was really cool to get to see footage like this, and it shows him still living in Iowa. He lives next door to his grandma. He has all of his high school buddies that he used to watch wrestling with. One of his friends introduced us to taco pizza, where you take the pizza, you crunch tortilla chips on top, and you top it off with Taco Bell mild sauce. And then you eat it. I don't know how that fit in, but I think it just sort of showed, small town life in Iowa, and sort of captured that for you. Then from there, they didn't really talk about him, coming up. I think that someday this will be a good structure for a DVD of Seth Rollins down the road, which I'm surprised one hasn't came out yet or come out. I know a lot of these specials on the WWE Network, such as like The Shield, where they talked about that SummerSlam, that got turned into a DVD feature, and then they just added a little bit to it to give it a little bit more bulk, and they put a whole bunch of matches on it to fill out a 3-disc set. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was, but nothing really about The Shield. I think it's been covered so much that it's already into there. But we go directly into him rehabbing, basically saying that his goal is that he wants to be a part of WrestleMania. He wants to be a part of WrestleMania 32. We see him having to go to rehab every day. We see him having to go to doctor's appointments and, put, on actual stress on the knee to see how it really holds up. It shows him doing like a muscle test where his knee is braced down and he has to kick it as hard as he can. And basically he gets the result saying that his knee is 20% less strong as it should be. It was really hard the way they were, making it understand, but they were doctors, so doctors don't always put things in the easiest form for us wrestling fans to take. He's pushing and pushing his goals. He wants to be a part of WrestleMania. He gets the bad news about Daniel Bryan, and you get to actually, hear his almost immediate thoughts as to Daniel Bryan being forced to retire due to him not being able to come back from his injury. And, Seth Rollins has doubts about his own injury at that time and if he's going to be able to come back and be the same performer that he was before. He gets the word that he's not going to be a part of WrestleMania 32, which is very hard for him to take because he feels like he was one of the main structures for WrestleMania 32, carrying the title from WrestleMania 31 all the way until I think he got hurt in like October to November. So he almost made the run of a full entire year. And basically that's when they started losing the structure of what WrestleMania 32 is supposed to be. Cena got injured somewhere around November to December. And as everybody knows, WrestleMania 32's card just basically went to shit. It is, but it is. But, Cena at least got to be a part of it, doing the whole thing with The Rock and the Wyatts. It was a fun way to be able to use The Rock, to use John Cena, because of, there was even doubts if Rock was even going to be a part of it. But Seth Rollins was brought in. You see him flying into Dallas. He's being met by fans. He's immediately saying right off the bat that he doesn't want to be there. It's very hard for him because of how much he was to WrestleMania 31 with his WrestleMania match, and of course him cashing in and being a part of the main event with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. We see him going to Access and everybody asking him, are you going to be a part of WrestleMania? Are you going to be a part of WrestleMania? And he even says that everybody's trying to get the scoops. And, there's really nothing for him to say. He has to just sort of go along with the flow of, everything that's going down. We see him actually attending the NXT show where he walks up and greets a lot of the performers that are there. Wrestlers like Sami Zayn say, how level-headed he is, the fact that he still cares about NXT, still cares about the up-and-coming wrestlers that are there. And Sami Zayn basically puts it out there that there's a lot of people that come through NXT that once they reach the main roster, don't give a shit about what's going down with the other guys in the company. And Rollins is always there checking on people. He says he's not able to watch every show, but he does, pay attention to what's going on at the top of the card and the important people that are going to be moving up soon and giving them words of encouragement and rooting them on. We see him talking to Bayley. We see him talking to Sasha Banks. We see him talking to Sami Zayn. We see him talking and watching, the Nakamura versus Sami Zayn match. We see him watching the Balor versus Joe match. And it seems like he sort of really wants to be there. But then immediately we take him backstage at WrestleMania 32. And he has this negative aura around him where you can just tell that he's giving it off. And he doesn't want to be there. He's there basically wearing a suit and tie, walking around. We see the conclusion of the Roman Reigns versus Triple H main event match, and he's just basically given up the world, which is very funny because if you think about WrestleMania 31, when Seth Rollins pins Roman Reigns, you can actually hear him on the audio tell him thank you, I love you, for basically taking the 3 count, giving him the championship and putting him over. And, here is Roman Reigns a year later getting that moment where he's actually at the top of the WWE and Rollins is basically walking around giving people handshakes. And he just says verbally, I don't want to be here. I got to get the fuck out of here. And they basically just takes off. And you can see on the monitor in the background that Roman Reigns is still in the ring. So, in a fan's perspective watching the show, it's like he didn't even get to greet him after the whole deal happened. We see him, meeting Vince. We see him meeting Triple H, and him and Triple H have a conversation in sort of like the valleys of an arena, and Rollins says, I'm ready whenever you need me, and Triple H says, sooner than later, got to make sure that you get healthy, this, that, and the other, and of course that would come down to the next month when Seth Rollins would take out. Because they switched. I keep on forgetting that in my mind, that Extreme Rules wasn't the pay-per-view after WrestleMania because they bumped it back. So it was the next pay-per-view where Rollins came out and jumped Reigns, which was his big return. So it wasn't the month after WrestleMania. I think it was 2 months after WrestleMania. We see him actually getting on the bus, and that's sort of fun for the fans because everybody knows that the bus is secretive, and we see this on the Rollins special. We see this on the Dudley Boys DVD that came out. Seeing how they get on the bus, even on the Sting one. You see them getting interviewed and going through, signing their deals and looking at their upcoming, T-shirts and things, and going through the things that they go through on the bus because there's nothing else for them to do because they got to keep them a secret. Which I also thought it was funny because when Rollins got out of the car and onto the bus where they're trying to keep him secretive, he did have a hooded sweatshirt on, and I think it was a John Cena sweatshirt, if I could be wrong, but made it a little bit more funny that they were trying to keep him secret by putting him under a John Cena sweatshirt. But I thought this was really good, and I'm sure most people in the world have seen it, but if you were like me and living under a rock and you missed this, make sure you go out of your way to watch it because it really did knock it out of the park. Seth Rollins, I believe it's Redesign, Rebuild, Reconquer. There was 3 R's in there. I can't remember them all, but I'll see you guys later, and make sure you check this out. Peace out, everybody.